Go ahead.
Well, good evening. My name is Matt Fennel, and I'm with the Organizers Union for Just Cause. We're a organization that is advocating for the recognition and enumeration of just cause protections in state law. And here in Oregon, we are running ballot initiative 49. Um, and this would establish just cause protections. As I said, if you're not familiar with what that means, most workers throughout the United States and here in Oregon are employed at will, which means they may legally be discharged without any reason at all or prior notice, unless they're explicitly protected by a contract, typically a union contract, or if they're a corporate executive, a contract. There are a few qualifiers to that under state law. Public safety officers like police have just cause protections, as do classified unlicensed school employees as of, I think, July 31st of last year, as a result of the passage of Senate Bill 283 last year. But our goal is to expand those protections to cover all permanent employees in the state of Oregon. So this would include generally all non-temporary employees, folks with a continued expectation to employment. And there are different definitions of that under the law or in contracts. We have our own definition in the language we've proposed. But our hope here tonight is to inform you of what we're doing and to win your support and to realize this language in the 2024 general election. We were trying to qualify for the ballot and pass this into law. So just cause effectively is criteria for an employer to follow in imposing disciplinary action or terminating employment. And I can speak to the legal theory behind that, or the prevalence internationally, or any aspect of this, where we're at procedurally that you would like to hear about. With respect to, I'm interrupting your meeting, so I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, how many more signatures do you need to qualify for the ballot?
So we need to hit the minimum qualification still. We will be receiving our certified ballot title tomorrow, and the window we have to qualify for the ballot is pretty narrow. We know that you all were working on initiative petition 40, number 9, and withdrew that. So I'm sure you're familiar that we have a minimum of 117,173 signatures to gather by July 5th, which is, under 3 months from now. And that's a hill to climb. It's still a doable prospect, but we also may receive a certified ballot title that we're dissatisfied with, and we may end up in a challenge before the state Supreme Court regarding that. So we're not really sure if we're going to have a Cinderella story in front of us, and or if we're going to be looking at refiling for 2026 and continuing to advance this standard. Our campaign has won significant endorsements, especially in the last 2 months and throughout 2024. And we're looking to continue to keep building that support to realize this in the law either this November or 2 years from now.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Amy.
Thank you. Matt, just speaking as somebody who worked many, many temp jobs, and there were times where I worked 6 months to a year, but was never hired on. How do you distinguish a permanent employee from a temp employee? Because, because traditionally, if you were in the old days, if you worked at a job for 90 days, they would make you an offer. But I am unfortunately definitely familiar with working at jobs where they simply opted to leave me a contract worker forever. So I'm curious as to how you're dealing with that.
Sure. So, our definition includes different standards of what a permanent employee is, but I would lean hard on the idea of continued expectation. If you're hired into a job and you have a specific end date written out, we would consider you a temporary employee and be excluded from coverage. However, in different job sectors, I think temporary employees, you have a limit under the law of, I think, something like 2 years. And that is something that we'd like to see improvements on as well. And if we refile, I think that we may build some of that into our language. But if not, you know, what we're proposing so far is a pretty bold new step. If Oregon is to pass this, we would be the first state in the country to pass a just cause standard. 49 out of 50 states are explicitly at will in terms of their practices today. Montana is the only state in the country with a good cause standard that was passed, I believe, in 1987. It is not a just cause standard. And in Montana, it's largely an unenforceable standard where individual workers would still have to prove inappropriate termination. The burden of proof still rests on the individual to prove mistreatment rather than an employer needing to provide evidence and meet a burden of proof prior to imposing disciplinary action.
Yeah, I would just add, if you haven't talked to temporary workers in the state, please make sure you do, because I'm pretty sure that even though from what I remember, there are multiple temp agencies, but as with so many other things, most of them are owned by just a handful of large corporations. And
there's a lot of intersecting issues here with contract or misclassification, gig workers. And that's one of the reasons why we stuck on permanent employees. It's a very complex subject.
I think you have to, you're going to have people bringing up the expectation that if this law passes, companies will be much more aggressive about creating more temp positions and more gig positions. So I hope you address that as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
I had a question. My hand keeps on dropping off, but my question was, are there exceptions for like small businesses?
No. So, you know, we are proposing the recognition of a property right to employment here in Oregon, which the legal theory behind this connects to due process rights that already exist for workers in public service, in the civil service, federal employees, Loudermill rights. You know, since 1912, federal employees have had just cause recognized by the U.S. Congress. The definition of just cause has evolved over the last 100+ years. In 1985, the U.S. Supreme Court heard Loudermill and recognized due process rights for employees in the civil service that effectively required, if disciplinary action that had an economic impact was imposed on such employees, or if there was the likelihood that it would be, employees would be entitled to notice and a due process hearing. Now, that would allow them to present their side of the story, but it's not an evidentiary proceeding like a courtroom setting. And there are limitations to these rights that fall well below what has been understood to be involved within just cause. The prevailing idea of just cause really was developed in the 1960s in the United States. Professor Carol Doherty, an arbitrator, issued a decision in 1966 where he established 7 tests of just cause. Those have developed and modified over the years. You know, but in most of the Western world, these due process rights have been like furniture in the room going back prior to 1960. In Canada, you know, a country with shared culture, language, colonial history, right? In 1960, due process rights were recognized for all employees. At-will employment is not a practice in Canada. I think in Ontario, maybe that's the only province with limited exceptions for temporary employees in private contracts. But even that is much more closely regulated than at-will standards in the United States. The vast majority of employees in Canada are not employed at will. The European Union, you know, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Spain, the Netherlands, Japan, Ukraine, Australia, Brazil, even Thailand has a standard of protections. Puerto Rico has had a just cause standard, I think, since the late 1970s. That allows employees to be provided up to 9 months of severance pay. You know, in terms of looking at developing model language in the United States, we've worked closely with the National Employment Law Project and they've endorsed our campaign. And we're really looking at, organizing not only a movement here in Oregon, but a national movement to overturn these segregationist era, practices of at-will employment. That's where all this stuff really originates, is post-Civil War, the idea that now that freed men and women, had the ability to quit a job legally at any time. Employment attorneys argued. Horace Wood, I believe, was the employment attorney who published a treatise called Master and Servant, I think 12 years or so after the end of the Civil War, and said that, well, if they can quit whenever they want, if workers can now quit, then we should be able to fire folks whenever we want without notice. And that's the exact opposite of a system of merit. We really believe that if someone is hired based on competency, you think that they're the best fit for the job, then that same sort of rationale should be applied in opposing disciplinary action in order to prevent covert discrimination, retaliation. We know that at least 1 in 5 union organizing campaigns in this country publicly alleges, inappropriate disciplinary action, terminations, in order to bust up those campaigns, chill union organizing. These are fundamental expressions of our freedom of association, workers advocating for improved conditions, safety, improvements to benefits, right? We have a privatized system where if you lose your job, you may lose access to healthcare, the ability to pay your rent or your mortgage. No one's personal security should be subject to a whim or to face that insecurity without due process and good cause. I'll take any further questions anyone has. Thank you.
Amy, and then I guess we're just going to stop and then.
I was just going to suggest, if you haven't already, you can bring all this up in light of the constant complaints that nobody wants to work. And if they want to motivate people to look harder for work, then they should make the workplace more hospitable. And thanks for coming out to talk to us.
No, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for making time to have me here. And at-will employment really is a subversively unexamined issue in public discourse, right? Like, this is a common sense thing. We've talked to thousands of folks in Oregon. The vast majority of those interactions are very supportive of this campaign. Even with employers, you might expect them to be more reticent to support. Certainly there is that community. The Chamber of Commerce did provide public comment on our initiative and provided some critical comment. And we welcome that. We welcome the discussion. But fundamentally, we've had employers say to us, firing is something we take very seriously, imposing discipline. It's hard to do, and we want to be fair to people. At-will employment is morally indefensible, So I see in the comment that you're endorsing. I'm just seeing those first three words there. Thank you so much for that. And we would love to. Yeah.
We just need to get it approved here by the SEC, but it's really more of a formality because this is so much in line with our platform. I just cannot do the decision myself, so I needed to get an SEC to approve. Devon, your hand up.
Yes, real quick, could you put your the best email to reach you in the chat if you can, so that we could, for those of us who'd like to get involved, can.
100%. So I can send, it doesn't say I can send it out generally, but I can send it to Natalie.
Okay.
And I forwarded your email to the steering committee group list. So I think your contact information is already shared.
Oh, perfect. Okay, gotcha.
If you want to check out our website, it's just oujc.org, as an organizers union for just cause.
Okay.
And Natalie's got my email. We have a phone number on our site as well. You can text or call us at that number. Any questions you have, I will be happy to talk your ear off about it. But what we really need your support with is validating this idea, talking to friends and family, raising awareness about this campaign. We definitely still have a chance to pass this into law this year, and we're just navigating, the different different trails we're on that may lead us to that point. But we're very excited about, the meetings that we're having with you and with many other organizations this month. And we're looking forward to seeing what kind of momentum we can still keep building.
I'm really excited because it's high time that this happens in the United States, and if Oregon can be one of the first states, I'm psyched. Personally, I think it's great. Anybody from the steering committee opposed to formally endorsing?
Heck no. I've already
Okay.
mentioned my bad experiences as a temp, so
So Matt,
definitely
what
not.
I'll do is I'll send you our logo, and you can, I don't, this is totally in line with our
Thank you.
platform.
Thank
It's
you
a
so much.
no-brainer.
Yeah, we'd love to feature your logo on our website. I can get some draft language to you in the next 24 hours for a press release that we can get out as well. We definitely want to make that public. And we would love to have conversations with you as well about fundraising and other things we can do together to move this forward. We really appreciate the time. And if there are any questions, don't be a stranger. Really look forward to getting to know you all better. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Take care.